Computer building guides have been around for years now, with desktop building having become more mainstream every year. The problem I find is that most people get too in-depth with cores, L2 cache, PCIe lanes, and all the things someone watching a guide wouldn't care about. So today we'll be going over finding the Ryzen for your budget and giving you all the basics you need to pick yourself out a system. You can't build a computer if you don't know what parts are inside of them, so we're going to start with that. The core of your computer is the motherboard. It has all of the connectors and circuits to allow your parts to function and communicate with one another. More expensive motherboards also allow faster and higher capacity RAM module, higher watt CPUs, and in general allow you to use higher end parts with more stability. The workhorse of the desktop is the CPU. From least intensive to most intensive, your CPU is involved with every process your computer does. Next up is RAM. Everything you have open has to fit in your RAM, from browser tabs to videos you're editing. The more RAM you have, the more you can open at once. GPUs are your video output, deciding what resolutions your computer can support and how many frames they can pump out in a second at said resolutions. These are extremely important for gaming and video editing. We will go over different models in another video. APUs stand between GPUs and CPUs. They are great value as you can get your GPU and your CPU in one package, saving you money if you don't need a beefy graphics card. PSUs are your power supply. Your motherboard and GPU require power to be connected to them. Power supplies come in different flavors of efficiency as well as wattage, usually from bronze to platinum for efficiency. If you need higher power and lots of plugs for a beefy graphics card, a higher wattage will be necessary. Hard disk drives, or solid state drives, are your storage. Any files you save, games you download, they all go on here. SSDs are faster than hard drives in general and have no moving parts, but hard drives have more space in them. The most important part of any build is deciding on your budget. Builders with low budgets generally want to prioritize making their computer as powerful as they can for the least amount of money they can, and few systems are as value friendly as APUs. In an APU build, you need a motherboard, an APU, RAM, hard disk drive or an SSD, and a power supply. If you're planning on gaming on your APU build, I recommend buying an aftermarket cooler. So let's talk about the APUs themselves a bit. Currently at the start of 2023 when this video is being made, the newest generation of APUs is the AMD 5000 series. Your options here are the 5700G and the 5600G. Unless you get a good deal on a used APU, I recommend going for one of these, as the older, less powerful chips actually cost more. The 5700G will set you back $250 Canadian. Now for mid-budget builders, we start getting more variety. Here we have the latest generation of Ryzen 5000 chips. These CPUs don't have internal graphics and require a GPU for video output. Both these CPUs and the APUs earlier use the AM4 socket, meaning that when you're hunting motherboards for either type, they are intercompatible. Both types of Ryzen processors also scale off your RAM speed. I recommend picking out a motherboard that supports 3600 MHz RAM, along with DDR4 RAM of the same speed so you can get the most out of your Ryzen. These faster modules hardly cost more than their default speed counterparts. So what is left for our high-end builders? Well, despite all this talk about both sides of the 5000 series, we have actually neglected the brand new 7000 series, which brings us to our high-end builders. Before, we recommended the very last generation of processors for the AM4 socket, and the reason is because the last generation for an architecture is usually the least buggy and most power efficient. Parts are also very cheap and plentiful. The downside to investing in the last generation is that there is no longer an upgrade path. To upgrade your system later will require you investing in a brand new setup. The Ryzen 7000 series costs more upfront, has less selection for parts, and you're paying a premium for newer tech. So far the system seems less stable, and these chips use the new AM5 socket, which will have new CPUs released for several years. So if you're planning to upgrade your system later, it might be worth it for you to buy an AM5 motherboard and CPU, and then to upgrade the CPU down the line when we get to the later generations of AM5. But if you want more bang for your buck and just want to replace whatever you buy years down the road, you'd be better off buying an AM4 system and saving the extra cash for your next build. Hopefully after watching this video you have a better understanding of the current generations of Ryzen processors and can rest at ease that you're getting the most bang for your buck when you go buy that new Ryzen system. Until next time, take care.